Hello, and welcome to How to Draw Hair. Please hope, last time we did this, I made a complete kerfuffle about the chat and it didn't quite work. I think I have the situation resolved, but if you could type in the chat, that would be really super useful. Ah, Claire, yes, it's working. Oh, thank heavens for that. Every time I do this, I get something different happens. Either the video goes a bit peak-tong, or the sound goes a bit peak-tong, or all the things. Every time is a different time. So like I say, put in the chat if you're here and that you can hear me and all the rest of it. That would be super. And I'll do a little bit of an introduction while we all get settled in. So I can see the live chat. This is good. Right. So introduction. Who am I? Well, hopefully most of you will know who I am. I'm Sue Melville from Sue Melville Art, and I run an art academy called the Smart Art Academy. Nice play on words there, I thought. However, I might be the only one. And I also do all sorts of random things. But the main thing I love about the academy is that, oh, hi, Vanessa, is that I like telling people, not telling sounds a bit awful, doesn't it? I like showing people the how. So how does something work? Why does that work that way? What is it in art that makes something work or not work? And why? Why, I think, really kind of frees up everything. So you kind of, it's easier to draw if you know why things are happening. So why the shadows, like faces. We've done a lot on people in these free workshops. So we've done eyes and noses, and then we did hands, and we've done feet. But things like shadows and shapes is, hi Karen, is really useful, because with shading, you can then see how things form. And so things like a skull, for example, I'm doing this because I'm sat here in front of you and I can see the image of me, is a shape. But you've also got there's a shape underneath, there's a skull underneath. And knowing how that underneath forms the shape makes things easier to visualize and then to do the art over the top effectively. So that's why I get really quite passionate about learning how to do things. I've suddenly realized that in my true style, I have enlarged my screen so that I can see all the control panels coming on. It's hidden the clock. And I do need to keep an eye on time, because I am mindful of the fact that, you know, I've put this in for an hour and I'm sure you don't want to hear me rabbiting on for hours and hours and hours. So that's a little bit about me. Obviously, I'd love for you all to come and join the Art Academy, because that would be amazing. There's all sorts of extras and tutorials, and you can go and search on subjects if you're really into charcoal. I love charcoal. Just saying, it's pretty awesome. Or acrylics or oils or pastels or all the things. Or if you're interested in particular subjects like people, like trees. I've done a lot on trees. There's some trees in the background there. Or flowers. And you can go and search on a subject. So it's really quite a nice place, I think. It's like a buffet. You can go and choose your little snippet and have a little play as and when you can. I'm a big advocate of sketching as well. So every week we go have a little sketching prompt. But this anyway, this is about how to draw hair, and here I am rabbiting on. This is basically a filler, so that people who join the YouTube live get themselves settled in, and then we get cracking. I don't mind you going on longer. No. You know me too well, Karen. Karen is a member of the Academy, and she knows how much I rabbit on. It's yeah, I'm thinking, am I egotistical? No, I just like performing, and I get very passionate when I'm like I say, showing people how the secrets on how to make art work, because anybody can draw. Art is so individual. So it's everybody likes different things. If we didn't, we'd all have the same print on the wall, and that would be incredibly dull. So everybody likes different things, whether that's abstract, figurative, playing with colour, playing with form, all those things. So I get very passionate and very excited about things like that. So there will be a link down below, and there is a little thing saying if you want to join the Academy, then if you join within a certain amount of days, can't remember off the top of my head, it'll be in the link thing, you can have a 30-minute one-on-one with me, and we can just chat about where you are and where you want to go, which I think will be, I've found is very beneficial to people who've taken it. So that's that. Anyway, I have prattled on now. So I'm now at the end of my filler slot. Oh yes, was things about business in the Academy as well, because in my previous existence, I was a qualified accountant and IT specialist. So there's a lot of all sorts of random things going on in there. So hair and how to draw hair. That's what we're here for today. So I'm going to have a little chat about the general theory of how we approach hair and how we make it work and why we do that. And while I prattle on for 5 minutes, it's a really useful exercise. Oh, I'll let you know what I'm using as well today, just in case you want to draw along, because we're going to be doing a couple of practices. So we're going to be drawing some hair. I've got some here here's some that I prepared earlier, true Blue Peter style. We will be going over this in real time so that you can ask me questions as I'm drawing. But what I'll be using is my favorite tool, which is Willow charcoal. You can obviously use pencils, whatever you have to hand. And I've got some compressed charcoal. I've got 2 black compressed charcoals because I know one will go blunt during it. A white compressed charcoal and a blending stump. I also use kitchen towel for blending too, so there's a fair bit of that going on. And then putty rubber. So this is gosh, running away. A grey putty rubber. These are nice and squidgy. They're great for creating shapes. And a mono eraser. You don't need a mono eraser, but it's a mono 0 Tombow eraser. I like these because you can get a nice fine line. It's like kind of drawing, or the opposite of drawing, because you're taking away in small lines. So I really do like these. But obviously any eraser will do. So while I talk about the theory, what I'd really like you all to do is spend about a couple of minutes, just draw an oval, an egg shape, because that's our head shape. And I would like you to draw some hair on it. Now, I'm not going to give you a specific hairstyle or anything like that. If you have a mirror, draw your own. But just to have an idea, because what I've found is really, really useful is if you have a starting point. So you can compare yourself to Monet or Whistler. Oh, I love Whistler. Although all these wonderful old masters. But in reality, they've been doing that for all their life, 8 hours a day, every day, probably more because they get very obsessed. Working in sketchbooks, working on these paintings. But all we ever see are the paintings they created towards the middle or end of their career, when they were accomplished. They've gone through art school, they've established their style, and that's the paintings that we then see. So we're being a little unkind to ourselves by comparing ourselves to them and saying, oh, I'm never going to be able to paint like they paint. The likelihood is, unless you've got a lot of time for the next, I don't know, 10, 15 years solidly, we're going to be painting differently, not less than, just different than, because it always takes time to hone a skill. They say, I think, is it 10,000 hours to become an expert in something? So you've got to get those hours in, whether that's in your sketchbook, on these how to draw hair workshops, or all the things. But never, ever compare yourself to somebody who's at their peak when you're just beginning. The only person you can compare yourself with is you. which is why I suggest you start this workshop by drawing, like say, an oval and drawing some hair on it. Any which way, how you would normally draw hair. And then at the end of the workshop, compare what you've done with where you were. And that's what will give you your baseline, and you'll be able to see your improvement as your understanding improves. And that is so, so important. So, oval, draw hair. Now, the theory behind hair, this is where things get interesting. Now, I'm going to try and, you guys know me, I'm going to try and change my camera. There's a whole heap of things that could go wrong at this point in time. So bear with, as they say. Hang on, this is where I have to do all the fiddly computer things. So, you know, I was saying I used to be an IT specialist. Yeah, not in this kind of IT. Right, so I'm going to turn on my Camlink camera, which is that one. Hey, there you can see my paper. I'm going to move that out of the way so we have a fresh piece. And I want to do a little bit of theory. I'm going to move it as well so that we can, you don't have half of me in the background there. And I'm going to turn on the light so we can actually see what we're doing. And being clever, figuring out where my camera is, because otherwise I'll draw in a space where you can't see, which will be irritating, really. I might actually, on this point, put my little circle camera on, so you get two of me. Hi! Don't worry, I'll turn this off when we're doing the 15-minute things, because, again, there's no need to see me, is there? That's just ridiculous. Right, now then, there we are. So, a bit of theory. So, if we have a head, and I'm going to draw an egg shape for my head. And one of the mistakes I see, and I see this a fair amount, to be fair, is people will, well, there are two mistakes I see happening a lot. The first one is, and to be fair, I do this a little bit when I'm drawing with pen. We're drawing all the hairs. All the hairs. Now, bear in mind, we have, now, actually, no, I did look this up, ready for this workshop, but I have promptly forgotten. But it's many, many hundreds of thousands of hairs on our head, and they are all considerably smaller than you'll get from a tip of a pen or pencil. So it's going to look a bit strange. And it looks a bit, well, it doesn't look real because there's too much detail in there. You don't see individual hairs. So that's one mistake I see. The other mistake, which incidentally I have done purely by chance, I hasten to add, because you know that would have involved planning if I planned to do the same mistake, both mistakes in one example. And everyone who knows me knows that my planning skills are not the best. So let me enlarge this picture a minute. Playing with technology again. What could go wrong? Oh, it's not letting me enlarge this bit now. Right, so the other thing is we've drawn our head like that. And if you'll notice, the hair is inside the line. Now, our hair doesn't sit inside our scalp. That would be ridiculous. Our hair sits on top of our skull. So we have, I mean, some people, okay, have very, very short hair, so it's not far above, but it is above our skull. So it gives a volume, a height. So instantly there, that looks a bit different. And our hair follows the form. So we've got our head, obviously, comes around here, but the hair would then drop down. It wouldn't follow right the way around. You're going to follow the form of the head. So a bit like when you get fabric falling off knees and things like that when you're drawing people. So you've got this element that goes above the skull. You've got an element that then flicks down. And you'll notice I'm drawing all these lines. That's because I haven't got my charcoal out. But we'll be going over this when we look at our proper references as well. But this is just to give an idea of the theory and remembering that you have your basic shape and your hair sits on top. So think of a Lego character. So you have your little Lego man, and I love Lego people. They are so cool. And the hair piece fits over the top of our little Lego man. And that's essentially a really good way of thinking about hair. Are we all with me, or have I rambled on and I've lost some of you? Feel free, like I say, now that I can actually see the chat, which is quite awesome source, I'm very excited that, and also a little bit paranoid that all of a sudden I'll lose the chat. But so that's a basic bit of theory. So now what I'm going to do, if you want to, is I'm going to turn off my circle camera because, you know, again, having two of me is just like too much. Still with you. Oh, thanks, Claire. So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to move this to a fresh piece of paper. The paper that I'm using, incidentally, is a paint-on, Clairefontaine paint-on paper, simply because it's got a little bit of grip to it, so it's quite nice for charcoal. And I'm going to put on, so let's start by, now then, as people are still with me, do you want to start with, actually no, I'm going to be kind. I'm going to start with hair on a skull that is behind us, because if we look at this lady here, I love this shot and we will have a go at this, but what you do tend to do when you're starting out is we get distracted by the face. And then it looks a little bit Frankenstein because there's no face. We're not drawing faces today, but it is useful to see the front as well as the back. But we'll start with the back because the back is easier because we're not going to get distracted by faces. So I'm going to get a nice long, again, I'm going to be sensible, people. Who'd have thought? And I'm going to, like I say, mark on my paper where I'm going to start and finish this drawing. So I'm going to start it here. And this is something that I do regularly anyway. It's called, well, there are lots of words for it. I call it bounding, putting in boundaries for all my art paintings. And this stops scope creep. So you have a tendency to kind of expand out our drawings. I find this when I'm drawing trees or something like that. I will draw a tree trunk, and then all of a sudden I'll think, oh, actually, I've gone completely out of the picture here, and it's evolved into something completely different. Whereas if you put your boundary in and have a look and say, okay, where is my bow? My bow is about, I'm now currently, by the way, squinting at that picture with my pencil to figure out where my bow is. It's about a third, 2/3 of the way up. Is kind of, actually it's a bit lower than 2/3. So it's kind of there. So that's about the 2/3 mark, and that is around that bow. And then the other 2/3 of this drawing is hair, and it kind of disappears off the end slightly, which is fine because, you know, it disappears off the end slightly on this drawing too. Great thing about charcoal is it erases easy. So you can get your starter lines in there, and then you can erase a bit. Let me get my charcoal. So I start out by, let's get this head in, and I'm going to do a basic square. Well, she's more of a circle, isn't she, for this? So we've got the back of the head, so it's the back of the cranium, and the cranium is usually a circle. So if we were drawing a portrait, this is extra credit for you all, you would start with a circle for, this is the Loomis method of drawing portraits, and you'd kind of drop down because you'd have you have the ear kind of in the back here. That would be the end of your nose. You have your eyebrows here, your mouth would come here, and your chin would drop down. So you have, this is your cranium. So that's the top of your skull where your brain sits. So we're going to, that's a very badly drawn, but you see what I mean. So we're going to start with that circle. And I'm going to make that circle slightly smaller because, of course, our hair sits on top. And then what I'm going to do is look for shadow shapes. So I'm squinting at the picture and I'm looking for, where are my shadow shapes? I don't want to put individual hairs in. I just want to look at, and I'm going to ignore the bits that fly out the side for a minute. And I'm just going to add that bow because that's quite a nice structural thing. And again, I'm going to simplify it a little bit because we're not really interested in drawing bows. We're interested in drawing hair. But what we do know is we've got a shadow because hair is three-dimensional. So we've got shadow, and then we've got these amazing curls coming down too. And the whole of the top of this head is darker than the rest. So I'm just going to cover that in a little bit and smooth that out with my kitchen towel. A little bit of kitchen towel, just make that nice and smooth. So we've got that nice shape. See, this is the wonderful play that you have with charcoal, which is why I love charcoal as a medium, is you can get a really nice mid-tone very easily. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at, where's my charcoal? Here we go. What is the shape of that hair coming down the back? And it's almost kind of it's like a teardrop almost shape, isn't it? It comes out, and if we look, drop a line down from the side of the head down here, we've got, it's almost like the edge of that teardrop comes out to the edge of our skull. So I'm just binding the shape of that hair. And then I'm going to put a little layer of charcoal over the top because I want to get a nice mid-tone. Mid-tones are fabulous because we can draw from mid-tones. So now, as I was saying, I'm going to squint, because when we squint, it's a brilliant trick. You really see those shadows and those shadow shapes. And we've got quite a lot of shadow shape on the top here. And we see the way the hair is formed. It's coming round here and in towards this clip. And we've got a really nice shadow shape on this side as well, where it's going round. And we're not interested in detail, we're just interested in shadow shapes. Just fill that in because that comes round and in, doesn't it? There we go. So I'm just going to blend that as we go. So with charcoal, whenever you blend, you kind of smoosh out what you've drawn, but you end up with a little shadow almost of what you've drawn, which is really nice. Matisse used this method a lot, and I talk about him, this particular painting, a lot in the Academy, because there's a really great painting, still life, that Matisse did, and he actually recorded the process. So you had the process of drawing, erasing, drawing, erasing, and you could see what he'd done, and what you had left was this shadow shape, which of a lady reclining on a chair, and you could kind of almost see the ghost of what all the previous shapes were, which I find absolutely fascinating. So on the bottom bit, what I'm looking for the shapes that the hair makes. So you can see with curls are three-dimensional objects, so they're going to be light hitting the top of the curl, and you can see that especially in this side under this bit of the bow here. So I just redraw that in a little bit. You can see you've got a darker bit here, and then there's a light bit where that light is catching, and we've got the darker bit underneath the hair. And the great thing about charcoal is you can put the tone down, and that dark tone down, and then you can pull out the lights from your dark shadows. And again, we've got some lovely shadows of those curls as they're coming round. And the other thing I'm doing is I'm using my charcoal in the direction of the I nearly said fur then, that's dreadful, isn't it? The hair, that's because I've been doing a lot of animals recently. But no, the direction of the hair, you'll see that if you mimic that direction, that helps hugely. So now what we've got is we've got some dark and mid-tones. And the next, this is the fun bit, because this is where we pull out some lights. Like I said, I'm ignoring that bow really. So where are our lights? And again, we're squinting and we want to pull those lights out again in the direction the hair is going, but there's no detail here. There's no individual hairs happening. It's all using the shapes on how we are, the direction and those light shapes. So you instantly get more of an idea of where that light is hitting. I'm also looking at this thinking I might have done that a little bit incorrectly, really. But there you go, that's what happens. But we're looking at, like I say, the way the light hits. That light actually, because I've completely misdrawn the head, that's why that isn't working, because we've got our hair that comes round here, which I'd completely missed off. Apologies, because I'd got that not hitting the bow then. Let me just, that's the other good thing about charcoal. You can make amendments to your drawing as you see them. So I'd done this hair not quite coming round to the bow. And that makes it look a lot better. I'm just going to darken this side because this is a really dark edge. And underneath here is dark as well. And smoosh that a little bit more. So whenever you see something that you think, oof, I've not really drawn that correctly, change it. Absolutely change it. The whole thing about drawing, and like I say, this is another phrase I use a lot in the Academy, so apologies for Academy people who are watching this, is art is a conversation between you and your painting. It's not something that you just stick on and it's there. It's something that you kind of push and pull and it evolves. The artwork evolves. I'm going to put some more shadow down underneath this bow because that's where we've got the darkest areas, and the dark area here too. We've got a little bit that slinks off to the side, and I'll put that in a second. But as you can see, we've got a nice dark area, and now all these curls are a lot lighter. But what I'm doing is, again, looking for the shadow shapes. So I'm not drawing individual curls. I'm looking at how does that shape come round. And we've got these wonderful marks. And we start by pulling out with our eraser where these highlights are. So we've got some little highlights coming on here. We've got some highlights here as the hair is moving off to one side. And we've got some lights as the hair moves off from the bow. And again, following the direction of the hair with the eraser as we're just pulling off some of these little extra bits. And so you start to get that form coming in. Does anyone have any questions while I am doing this, by the way? Do type it in the chat and I will answer all questions as they come in. I'm just, like I say, pulling off some odd bits here and there just to give this idea. And there's no detail in this at all. But you're starting to get a feel of this has got form, this is a head, this is hair, we've got movement happening. And you just need to pick out just a couple. I'm going to get the mono eraser because this is a harder eraser, so you get closer to the white underneath. And if you're using a grey paper, which is, I love using grey paper, you can use then the white charcoal pencil over the top, and that's really nice. So the final stage, because I do want to move on and do a couple, at least another 1 or 2 demos here, is you can either use a charcoal pencil, such as this, or your eraser, and use that just to put in some little bits of tweaking, so a little idea of maybe 1 or 2 strands, so you have that illusion of hair without actually drawing hair. So I'm just going to put in one of these extra bits here that she's got that kind of curves round, and that's softened. So I'll soften it a little, and then on this side we've got these extra bits here that come in, and I'm just going to swirl that round. And again, I'm looking at this as a shape, but I'm following the pattern of the hair when I make that shape. And I'm just going to pull out maybe one or two little bits at the edge that just helps with that illusion of the hair. And those bits at the edge just really help give you an idea of, like I say, that is hair. Our brain will fill in the rest. We don't need to do too much at all. As you can see, we've now got something that looks like voluminous hair. So that's one hairstyle. So let's just switch it up a bit. By that, I'm going to quickly move over to another side of painting, because, and I'll just take the end of that off so that we don't see that bit. Having a hair like that is great, but what happens if you've been asked to do someone with short hair? So this is, and we all get commissions and requests from family members to draw various people, and children are so difficult. So this is a young man, a young, probably, I'm rubbish at guessing ages, I'm not even going to try, but child anyway, under 18. So again, I'm going to start the same way. I'm going to bind my drawing by my top and bottom. And I'm just going to put that lower simply because I can, and I don't have to move the camera, because moving the camera is just too technical for me, really. So we will do that a moment. So, and I'm squinting and I'm looking at the reference photo. If you have upgraded or you're in the academy, by the way, the reference photos, can't even speak, the reference photos and the a little workbook are available to help you with this. So I'm just going to put in an oval shape for the head. And if you notice, the oval shape is below where I've put my binding for this picture. That's because we know that hair sits on top. So I'm just going to give him a, see, this is instantly, I'm there thinking, oh, let's just do a quick portrait. No, don't do a portrait. Gosh, but it's really quite difficult to do just hair and have some sort of random thing. I instantly just want to do a something. So I'm going to stop there and not do anything. So when you're doing a portrait, what you would do is you would start with your initial shape and then put in, just block in line-wise, where are, what is the binding? So think of your little Lego man. What shape does this hair have? So we've got it, the hair kind of comes off on an angle, then the angle changes. We go out and up a bit, we then go up straight. He's got quite a voluminous hair because he's young and hasn't started loosening it. Give it time. And then, sounds very bitter, doesn't it? My hair isn't losing, but it certainly is grey, thanks to children. But I'm just looking at what is the general shape of that hairstyle, and just block in by sort of with rough straight lines. I tend to work with straight lines first because that makes it easier. And again, we're going to smush this, so that's fine. And I'm going to put the fact that his ears kind of go down here. Ears tend to be, as we know, if you've done any of the portrait classes and things with me, around the bottom of the nose-ish, depending on the angle of the head, up to around the eyebrows-ish, depending on the angle of the head. So let's pop those in. I mean, again, trying to do the portrait, stop. and I'm going to put in the middle tone. So I'm just going to colour the whole of this in and blend it using my kitchen towel. I have got my paper blender here, but I think the blending stump is better used for pulling out little extra hairs. And I'm not bothered that I'm going over the edge a little bit, because hair is what we call in the art world a soft edge. It's not hard. There's no definite end. Hair is just kind of soft and it works. There's always little bits sticking up, even when you've got a smooth hairstyle. Because hair is constantly growing, you will always get little bits that stick out here and there. So what I'm doing again is I'm squinting and I'm looking for those shadow shapes. So there's a shadow shape that comes down here. We've got this shadow shape underneath because our hair is turning under, and that gives you that shadow shape. So think about the form that you're seeing as well. So again, it's turning under by the ear. So we've got some extra dark bits, and we've got some interesting dark bits up at the top because there's a lot of texture in this boy's hair. And you'll get lots of, everybody has different types of hair. Of course, now that you've taken this how to draw hair workshop, you will of course be asked to draw lots of people who are bald, because that's what's called Sod's Law. Bald people are also very interesting to draw, but it's different. At least you don't have hair to worry about, you just have everything else. So I'm just going to put in some little ideas of texture, just squiggles. But again, I'm thinking of the hair folds down and we've got these elements that are in the shadow. And I'm trying to follow a little bit about the direction of the hair. Again, similar to fur, if you follow the direction, because the hair is sitting on the skull and it's growing in a certain direction, that direction will help you with your form. And again, I'm just going to smoosh that. But we've still got those darker shapes, even though that I've smooshed it a bit. In fact, I'm just going to do this. You shouldn't be doing this just now, but I'm just going to use the blending stump a little bit just to see, pull some little edges out, because we've got that comes down here and over the ear a little bit. And now again, I'm doing the fun bit. So I'm starting by pulling out some highlights, and his highlights are quite bright. If I was painting this, I would have them blue because there's a definite bluey tinge, but you're looking for shapes. So we've got a shape here where the hair is curling over. It's slightly lighter down here, not a lot. So I'm just gently stroking that eraser down that side. It's quite difficult to tell where the light is coming from, and it's kind of coming, it's got multiple directions of light. It's definitely lighter at the top. So again, I'm pulling out some shapes, looking at the direction of the hair and just following that. So although I am kind of carving out areas, I'm not drawing individual hairs. I'm literally looking, squinting and looking at what can I see? What are the movement? Where am I getting the brightest lights? Now here, there isn't much bright light at all. We're seeing little bits, but it's not bright. We've got a lot lighter down here, this area on the right. So I've got a rough area, and I'm just going to smoosh that a little bit again, because hair is soft. And then I'm going to come back in with my charcoal, again, having this conversation with the art, looking at where are my darkest darks? How is that working? We've got this darkest dark here. Where are those areas? Again, if you have any questions, do drop them in the chat. I am endeavouring to have a little look at it. So I'm just, again, putting in those shapes, and you're starting to get that feeling of form. And what I would do at this stage, because I've had this sort of little conversation that's been going around a little while, I will switch up to, I'm just going to smush that a little bit as well. Love that word, smush. So you're getting that, again, form. And I'm going to add in, I'm going to come in with my charcoal pencil. Charcoal pencils are great because it's compressed charcoal. So it acts the same way as charcoal, but it doesn't blend as well. So when you come in with a charcoal and charcoal pencil, and then you come over to give it a good smoosh afterwards, it won't blend quite as much as the willow charcoal blends. So you get a nice texture play. Again, I'm just looking at, quickly seeing, where are my darks? What have I got going on here? We've got a little bit of dark going at the background back there. And we've got this shape. It's almost like a semicircle shape. And again, we've got a curl here where it's turning under, so we can see that turning under. And then we've got the dark bit by the edge of the face and dark here. And again, I'm going to smush it just a little. And you can see that starting to appear. And we're starting to get some level of, it looks like detail. There's no detail here, absolutely none. I'm going to pull some little edges, little bits over the edge. It is very distracting not having a face there. I don't know how you feel about that, but it's really quite, I want to start putting in a face so we can actually see the person underneath, but I know that that's not what we're here for, so I'm trying not to really hard. I'm just going to take that hair up a bit. We've got an awful lot of smushing that's smushed over the edges, but that's great because I can then carve in. These aren't straight lines. Like I say, the hair isn't uniform, it's not straight. We have all these bits and pieces that go off over the edge. We've got bits that reflect. And we're starting to get more of a feel of a life and movement. And you want to get that idea of movement happening. And that's where you get this sort of, like I say, this play coming in of light and dark. Again, I'm just going to darken this because I've lost the dark of that bit that's turning under. And like, you need to keep bearing in mind, things turn under. They get darker as they turn under. They get lighter as the light touches them. So that's an idea of hair on a face. It really is quite hard to do this without suddenly wanting to do a portrait. And I'm going to stop because I will try and start doing a portrait soon. Because the other thing to understand as well with thinking about the portrait is hair sitting on top of the face means that it casts a shadow on the face too. So you can see on this bit here in the actual photograph, you've got a shadow under here a little bit where we can see that turning over, turning under. And then we've got some individual little bits that pull and gives you an idea of shape, direction, form, just a couple little indicators of where the actual direction of the hair is going. And you can put these in, you can play for hours on this. This is the danger zone where you start thinking, oh, I'll just put a little bit more in. I'll just do this. I'll just have a little play over here maybe. And you can tweak and tweak and tweak, which is great until you overwork something. So it's a really good idea to get these layers in, get the base bits in that you think, okay, that's kind of where I want it, and then walk away. go and make a brew, go and just take a break from what you're doing, and then that will help you when you come back to see what exactly it is that needs amending, if anything. Or if actually you come back and think, actually, I'm done, this works. And I'm using my mono eraser just to pull out a couple little highlights, because we've got some really nice little shiny bits happening all over, and especially over here. There's some nice shiny bits. And that gives us that little bit more texture. And again, I've smushed everything all over. So I'll just take some of that smushing off a bit. So there we have an idea of how we would go about working on short hair, which is basically the same thing. It's understanding the principles. And this is what's quite fascinating, because once you understand the principles of why things work, just about everything then becomes possible. It's then a matter of what interests you and what do you want to actually then go and achieve. So it's things like, I mean, I get passionate about all sorts of things, as anyone who knows me knows. And I've been very passionate about people for a little while now, doing lots of portraits and various works like that. But I'm also fascinated by trees and by buildings and by boats and by all sorts of things. And I think that's what's so great about art. Once you know a process, that process can then be applied to just about any subject at all. So we've done a short hair, we've done a long hair from the back. We've probably got enough time to do one more very quickly. Shall we do, you're right, Kate, it is. The mono eraser is brilliant for doing highlights. Would you like to do a plait or a person straight on? I have to say, I'm kind of erring towards the plait, but do put in the comments if there's a preference that you have. And we will do very quickly one more before we call it. Let me put me back in again a minute. Oh, no, turn the boy off. I'm back here. So what would you like? Would you like a plait or the face? Plait. Perfect, Claire. I'm so glad you said that, because that's the one I prefer too. And it's interesting because the movement... Oh, Karen, plait as well. Hurrah. I don't want to get distracted by another portrait. That's so tricky. Right. Let me find the reference photo for that. Boop. There we go. Turn me off again, because otherwise I just vanish into the background. Oh, where am I? Oh, there I am. Boop. Oh, everyone's gone plait. Excellent, excellent. So plaits are great. I love doing plaits. I'm going to do the same as I've done in all the rest. I'm going to start, that's the top of my head, and this is going to be the bottom of my plait. And when I squint and I compare the bottom of the plait to the top of the plait, it's about halfway. So let's make a halfway mark. And then the head, the plait kind of ends up almost towards the end of the neck. So we've got and the head is sort of coming down. So we've got let's do an oval-ish shape that's going to come down just past that halfway mark. And I'm doing this very roughly because I want to get into the plait. So that's and I've kind of drawn the hair as well. I've not drawn the head per se on this one. I just want to get, so the skull wouldn't be that much underneath, actually. I would probably say it's probably this much here. Oh, Vanessa says plait too. Fabulous. It's handy because that's what I've just started. So we've got the plait starting about here. Our head, well, actually comes right down because the cheek is coming right down to here. So that this is probably the nape of the neck. And we've got this kind of line coming up here, which is the hairline. This is what we call, we're just kind of mapping out where everything is. And the ear is probably 2/3 up, maybe here is the ear. And so the top of the ear marks where this is coming across and up. So we've got this shape that's one of the first bits going into our plait. And again, this is what we're looking for. We're looking for shapes. So we're looking at where is that plait moving into. So we've got a shape here, and then it kind of comes down to the bottom of our plait here where we've got our braid, our little bobble, effectively. And we've got a plait that is about there, and this is, so that is the nape of the neck on this side going up to the ear here on that side. So that's kind of the structure. So this is what we do. We start with a structure. So I know roughly where I am. I've done a little bit of comparative measurements. I know roughly that there's going to be another line here. We've got kind of V shapes where we've got the plait is working. We've got another one there. We've got another one coming in like that before it goes into that bobble. And it kind of goes narrower. So we've got that coming out and that coming out. We've got this coming out here. Again, you don't have to be exact because this is not an exact science. And this is something else I say regularly. Nobody is going to know your reference photo unless you show them. And so you can be as creative. The whole point of art is this isn't a photograph. This is your interpretation of the artworks. This drops down. Your interpretation, God, I can't even speak today. Your interpretation of the thing that you are portraying. So I'm going to start, I've done my rough blocking in. So I'm now just going to put in some mid-tone over the top. And again, you'll notice I'm following the direction of the hair because that actually makes life easier for me. And I am all about making life easy. Life is complicated enough. We don't need to have to complicate it even further. I'm going to just do the same for the plait as well. Now, if we want, we can draw in the collar. It's up to you whether you want to. In some ways, I quite like doing that because it gives me context. But you don't need to. So I'm just going to just pop something in so I have an idea, and that's her neck coming down there into the top. And I'm not going to do anything more than that. I'm just doing a little idea of this is where the hood of her, I'm assuming it's a her, might not be her top. So I'm now going to smush my mid-tone in so that I've got a nice layer that I can then work with. Sometimes it's quite nice to do a design like this when you don't have all the details. Lost my putty rubber. Let's get another bit out. So I've come prepared today. I've got like 700 putty rubbers and all sorts of things lying around just so that I know where I am. I've also not drawn that right because I wasn't concentrating because I'm concentrating on talking. I know a lot of artists do these workshops and they tend to pre-record and then talk over the top. And I have to say there's some merit in that. But I'm not A, that organised, and B, I don't know, I quite like I like being able to talk to somebody when I'm actually doing a thing, if you know what I mean. Right, so I've done a basic shadow shape. It's not perfect, but it is there. And now I've lost the charcoal, which is, it was there literally just a minute ago. Oh, thankfully, again, I have several more pieces handy. And I'm just going to look at where are my darkest darks. So my darkest darks are in this bit coming up into that plait. Oh, gosh, that's broken. I'll get another bit. I'm going to have to replenish my charcoal store. They're getting very small. So I've got the real dark bit under here. I've got a real dark bit coming up over that top. That's really dark too. And I've got that, it's kind of following that element, that area going up. And then this side of the head is really dark because it's in shadow. So I'm going to, the really good thing about this picture, unlike the young boy earlier, is you're very clearly, that is the direction of the light. And when you've got a clear light direction, it makes life so much easier. So we've got some ideas of some shapes. And it's underneath here is darker as well. So we're just going to start with this and smush that a little bit. Again, still smushing in the direction the hair is growing, but that starts giving us a little bit of contour, a little bit of shape. I'm just going to redark because we're looking for where are our darkest darks. And our darkest darks in the head area is coming from this bit here. Ooh, sugar. And like I say, on this bit, so I'm going to redarken this area that's in the shadow. We can't really see any detail in there. So I'm just going to really blank that out. We've got some dark happening there as well. So it's just, but what we have is this area here. That area there is the lightest bit. So now what we're going to do is have a look at the plait. Now the plait, you've got lots of shapes. So as hair is plaited, obviously it is a shape. It's got, the hair is being pulled down and in, but it's three-dimensional. So it's got form. And when we have form, we have shadows. And when we have shadows, that brings something to life and makes it three-dimensional. I'm just going to click off there a moment because I can't actually see. There we go. What you didn't see there is I've got a great big blue arrow that was quite happily sat directly over the reference photo, which makes life tricky. So again, looking for shapes, not bothered about individual things, just looking for shapes. And we've got little diamond shapes where we've got both areas of this plait is coming in towards each other and is attracting, catching the light and then moving into shadow. So we've got these shapes and we're looking at, always looking at the shapes, thinking about the light, but the shapes as well. So the light is coming from this direction. So all this side of the plait is in shadow. You've got some light coming over the top, like on there, but it's mainly in shadow. So I'm just going to smush this a little bit. Oh, that was more than I intended. Ah, right, that's fine though. We can still see a lot of that there. So I am now going to just very aware of the time here. If anyone has any questions, do pop them in the chat, then I can answer them. So I've got, again, going back over, as we've done in all the others, we're looking at re-emphasizing where our darks are. So we know that when we blend, we kind of lose that detail, and then we come back in and reaffirm it. And so I'm just now just reaffirming those main lines, and we're just working on the darks. We're not working on any highlights at the moment. We will work in the highlights very shortly because it is actually nearly time. So we've got all those darks in, and I'm going to use my blending stump actually at this point just to blend in some and soften some of those details, because the magic is in the blending and also in the erasing. So again, I'm looking at where are my lines, where are the direction of the hair, and I'm using my blending stump in this lighter area to actually put in some dark. So I've got lots of charcoal now dust on my blending stump. As you can see, it's quite filthy. So I'm using that to move my pigment around the paper. And we've got lots of bits coming over the edge from our blending, and that works really well, because if you can see, we've got lots of bits coming over the edge in the reference photo too. And that works. It helps us have that feel of hair. So now what I'm going to do is get my putty rubber, and I'm just going to start picking out some highlights. And again, I'm going to be looking at the direction of the hair, and I'm going to just pull out those really bright lights. Oops. So we've got those bright lights on this edge and on this particular part of the hair. And then we've got, again, the light is hitting here, coming up towards the top. And I'm just looking at, where is that light? And if we look at this side, we don't have any elements like that a putty rubber would work with, but it would work well with a mono eraser, where we can pick out some individual lit areas where we're moving into that plait. And just a couple is all you need to give that idea of hair and form. Bear in mind, hair is not, well, people have straight hair. Hair as a rule isn't straight. It's higgledy-piggledy. It goes all over the place. It goes in different directions. That's just the nature of hair, and we want to replicate that. So now what I'm looking at is the plait. So I'm just going to pull out the tops of each of those areas of the plait that we can see where the light is hitting. I'm not doing much. Again, there's no detail in this. I'm just observing and looking at, where are the areas where I've got some highlights. Thinking about the form turning over, where is the light hitting? Again, this is a conversation, so I can go back and have a conversation with that bit there where I've lightened too much. And on the bobble too, even though it's blue, we've got lines where the light is hitting, and that gives a nice illusion of that bobble coming in. I'm just going to go back in and pop that dark area. And it's really dark in those bits where we've got the bit where the hair actually goes in. This is the darkest area. So I'm wanting to go in with my dark charcoal pencil and just really pop those darks in, because they are the darkest dark areas. I want to make sure that they are really dark. And that gives, like I say again, another sense of form. I want that light going up a bit here. And you also get the light, so we've got some sharp edge. You know when I said before all hair is soft edges? We've actually got some sharp edges here. So sharp edges are where we've got a hard edge, a big contrast. So in this area of the plait, coming onto the top of the plait, where it's sort of, you've got that curve under, it's a core shadow effectively. And then we've got this lightened bit here where it goes over the edge. That's quite a hard edge. That's a hard, sharp edge. And so we want to give that a little bit more emphasis. And again, looking at the direction of the hair, where is the hair flowing? That will help give that sense of realism. And I'm not putting hard lines everywhere, just on little pieces. I know that I am now over time, so sorry. Do you know, the really sad thing is I've got queued up another couple extra pictures as well. I knew I wasn't going to get to them, but I thought just in case anyone's really, really, really super fast. So there we have. And again, we can carry on playing, having that conversation, looking at where are our lightest lights. But there's no real detail in this. And yet it looks like there's a lot of detail, because our brain is this wonderfully, wonderful, magical thing that will make up detail because it knows what should be there. And it's great for that. In fact, I'm going to add a little bit of extra dark on this side, a little bit, because it really is a lot darker there. And you can have some extra little twiddly lines that are just coming out. It just gives that extra feel. I've got some little lines here, so you can go in like we did with the mono eraser for picking out individual lights. We can go in with that charcoal pencil and just look at where are my really dark darks and put in some more contrasts. Contrast is what makes a painting or a drawing interesting. And you can do contrasts with light and dark, or through color and tone and values like that. You can create contrast by using interesting objects that potentially go in lots of different sizes. That gives a contrast, and that makes an interesting composition too. So there's lots of different things you can do to help create contrast that will make your painting interesting. But the great thing about, like I say, charcoal is you can pull out aspects as well, which is fabulous too. See, again, I'm trying to do a portrait, and even just the little side, I need to stop, because that's not what we are here for. We are here for hair. So you can see it doesn't look like there's much detail in there, but there absolutely is. And you don't, well, it looks like there is. There isn't actually that. We haven't put, I must stop doing portraits. Honestly, I am a terror. So it looks like there's detail, but there isn't actually detail in the picture. I'm going to turn this off now and come back to me. If I can, I mean, goodness knows, anything could happen. Hi. Let me turn the plat off as well, then I'm back, and turn my this off because that's very bright. Move it out of the way. I hope that has been useful for you, and I hope if you look at, I've just suddenly realised I've got a nude in the background. It's art. There you go. I hope you found that interesting, and I hope you have look at your picture you did initially. Look at the state of that. Look at the picture you did initially at the very beginning of this, where I was gassing on about the Smart Art Academy and all the other things that we offer, mainly to try and persuade you to join, because this is my sales pitch. I'm a useless salesperson. If you love my style, if you love my teaching, come join me. If you don't, that's absolutely fine. Come and watch all the free workshops. We have them every other month. And this is the point where people who have been on this before know that if there's something you want happening, want me to cover in the next free workshop, which will be happening in 2 months' time, May, June, July, put it in the chat and let me know, because if you guys want to see something specific, I will absolutely create the workshop around you. That's what I'm here for. That's what I love doing. And as I said before, if you are wanting to join the Academy, you will get a little email out. You get a whole half-hour just general chat with me. Really good fun. I'm covered in charcoal. Yeah, every time. I mean, I tend to do this and end up coming out smudged in charcoal. Karen says, thank you. I love my sketches. Oh, I'm so glad, Karen. They are, it's really good, I think, just thinking about form when you start creating something and less about detail. Your mind will fill in the details. It's like when you draw buildings, you don't ever put all the bricks on the house. Your mind knows that all the bricks are there. You just need to just indicate a couple, and your brain will fill in the rest. Kate says, so helpful. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. So I'm going to call it a day and disappear off. This recording is going to be available on my Zoom channel for 2 weeks, and then it's going to get removed because that gives me, that's my little sales pitch really. If you want to see it forever and have a workbook and see the, have the reference photos from the ones we did today, upgrade to a VIP upgrade thingy. I think it's €27.90 and you get this workshop and all the other ones I've done on eyes, nose, hands, feet, all the things. Or join the Academy. It's only €25 a month. It's not, and you can disappear off at any time you wish, although there is rather a lot there and it is quite fun and I'd love for you to join us. That's the end of my spiel. I will go now and release you into the wild. Like I say, thank you so much for joining me. Hope you had a great time and I will see you again soon. Bye.